Hey everyone! Ready to dive deep into the world of The White Lotus Season 3? Released on February 16, 2025. This season has sparked endless discussions, and today, we're uncovering every thrilling detail. If you enjoy this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps us grow. And for more incredible movie explorations and hidden gems, subscribe to the channel. Now, let's unravel the magic behind this cinematic masterpiece. On February 16, 2025, the world was transported once again into the luxurious yet sinister world of The White Lotus with the release of its highly anticipated third season. As soon as the first episode aired, viewers were immediately immersed in a setting unlike anything they had experienced before. Gone were the tropical beaches of Hawaii, replaced by the bustling streets of Bangkok, the serene shores of Koh Samui, and the tranquil allure of Phuket. But the change in location was just the beginning. The narrative, the performances, and the haunting beauty of this new season quickly captivated the audience and solidified The White Lotus as more than just a show. It became an event. For fans of dark humor, psychological drama, and biting social commentary, Season 3 had all the makings of a cultural phenomenon, and it did not disappoint. The White Lotus Season 3 isn't just another installment of an already successful series. It's a masterclass in suspense, character development, and storytelling. Created by Mike White, the show has always had a knack for exploring the thin veneer of civility that cloaks the darker instincts of the rich and powerful. Season 3 takes those themes to an entirely new level, unraveling the lives of guests and staff at a wellness resort in Thailand. It's a journey into the lavish world of the wealthy, but as always, nothing is ever as it seems. And as the narrative unfolds, the deeper questions of privilege, power, and human nature begin to take center stage. The juxtaposition of stunning visuals with tense psychological drama is what makes this season extraordinary. What makes The White Lotus Season 3 so captivating is its ability to blend the glamorous with the grotesque. On the surface, it's a story about the wealthy checking into a luxurious, almost spiritual resort. They come seeking peace, enlightenment, and relaxation, expecting their time in Thailand to be a life-changing experience. But beneath this surface lies a simmering cauldron of jealousy, betrayal, desire, and moral decay. Just as we've come to expect from The White Lotus, things are never as idyllic as they seem. From the very first moments, we are introduced to a slew of new characters, each of them carrying their own baggage, insecurities, and ambitions. The characters are wonderfully complex, and the performances are nothing short of outstanding. Michelle Monaghan, Carrie Coon, Walton Goggins, and Leslie Bibb deliver nuanced portrayals of individuals with varying degrees of desperation and self-delusion. These are characters who are navigating their own personal struggles while trying to present a perfect facade to the outside world. Their flaws, desires, and vulnerabilities come to the surface over the course of the season, creating an intricate web of lies, manipulation, and deceit. The plot of Season 3 is both intricate and unpredictable, a hallmark of The White Lotus. On the surface, it seems to be a simple tale of wealthy vacationers at a resort. But as with all great storytelling, the surface is just a smokescreen for something much darker. Each episode slowly pulls back the curtain on these characters, revealing layers of hidden motives and unsettling truths. Early on, we're introduced to the idea of spiritual awakening, with many of the characters attending wellness retreats and yoga sessions. But it quickly becomes apparent that the characters' journeys are far from peaceful. Instead of enlightenment, they find themselves confronting their inner demons, as the resort, with its lush surroundings and serene atmosphere, becomes a pressure cooker for tension. The beauty of the setting contrasts sharply with the turmoil that the characters are enduring. Thailand's lush, tropical landscapes provide an idyllic backdrop, and yet, they become the stage for some of the most chilling and disturbing moments in the series. There is a palpable sense of unease that permeates every scene, whether it's a seemingly harmless conversation between two guests or a moment of quiet introspection. This creates an atmosphere where the viewer knows something is coming, but they're never quite sure what it is, and that's part of the allure of The White Lotus. The suspense is always just beneath the surface, building, waiting to explode. The twists and turns in the plot are sharp and unexpected, pulling viewers in different directions. Just when you think you've figured out a character's arc or a story's trajectory, the show shifts in a new direction, introducing fresh secrets, new betrayals, and unforeseen consequences. It's a show that constantly keeps you guessing, and each episode feels like a puzzle piece falling into place, bringing us closer to an inevitable, explosive conclusion. But it's not just the plot that's so mesmerizing. It's also the way that the White Lotus handles its themes. This season doesn't just explore the impact of wealth and privilege on its characters. It also dives deep into questions of identity, purpose, and the search for meaning. As the guests attempt to cleanse their minds and bodies, they find themselves unraveling in ways they never expected. The wellness retreat, meant to heal and purify, becomes a metaphor for the facade of perfection that each character tries to maintain. In their pursuit of spiritual awakening, they're forced to confront the darkness that they've been running from all along. There's a deep psychological element to the White Lotus Season 3. The characters' inner lives are as captivating as their external actions, and much of the drama unfolds through subtle shifts in their behavior. It's in the offhand comments, the loaded silences, and the lingering stares that we begin to unravel the complexities of their personalities. No one is truly what they seem, and every character has a secret, some darker than others. This creates a web of tension, where the true stakes of the show are never fully revealed until the later episodes. The visuals are another standout aspect of the White Lotus Season 3. Thailand's breathtaking beauty is showcased in every frame, from the quiet serenity of Buddhist temples to the bustling energy of city streets. But it's the way that the cinematography contrasts these serene landscapes with the growing unease of the characters that makes the visuals so impactful. The camera often lingers on the faces of the characters, capturing the subtle shifts in their expressions as they mask their true intentions. The lush setting becomes a mirror to their emotional turmoil, and each shot adds another layer to the tension building throughout the season. What makes the White Lotus so addictive, however, is its ability to both entertain and challenge. It's not just a guilty pleasure. It's a commentary on the human condition, examining the ways in which we deceive ourselves and others, and how privilege and power can distort our perceptions of reality. The show doesn't shy away from showing the worst aspects of its characters, but it also manages to make them relatable in their flaws. This mixture of dark humor, psychological depth, and stunning visuals is what makes the White Lotus so extraordinary. It's also a cultural phenomenon because it taps into the universal themes of human behavior. We all recognize the dynamics of power, privilege, and desire at play within the show. While the characters may be wealthy and living in a bubble of luxury, their emotional struggles and moral dilemmas are universal. We all grapple with our inner desires, our fears of inadequacy, and the need to protect the image we present to the world. The characters in the White Lotus may be living a life of excess, but they are dealing with the same kinds of personal turmoil that we all face, and that relatability has made the series resonate on a global scale. The White Lotus Season 3 became a cultural touchstone because it succeeded in combining entertainment with deeper social commentary. It wasn't just about the drama. It was about exploring the dark undercurrents of human nature in a way that was both captivating and unsettling. The way it examines the intersection of wealth, power, and personal identity spoke to a generation that is increasingly aware of the inequalities in society. The show's ability to take a luxury resort and turn it into a cauldron of tension and moral conflict is what makes it not just a binge-worthy series, but an exploration of the complexities of the human soul. For those who haven't yet delved into the White Lotus Season 3, there's no better time than now. This season is not just about escaping into a beautiful world of excess. It's about peeling back the layers to reveal the raw, unfiltered truths that lie beneath. Whether you're drawn to the complex characters, the stunning visuals, or the intricate storytelling, there's something for everyone in this season. And as the episodes unfold, you'll find yourself captivated by the twists, surprised by the performances, and, perhaps most importantly, left questioning the very nature of the characters' moral compasses. The White Lotus Season 3 is more than just a show. It's an experience, a deep dive into the human psyche that will leave you thinking long after the credits roll. So, if you haven't already, dive deep into this mesmerizing, psychologically complex world and discover what makes the White Lotus not just a hit, but a cultural phenomenon that's impossible to ignore. The luxurious, serene setting of Thailand forms the backdrop for the White Lotus Season 3. From the very first scene, we're immersed in a world of tranquility, yet we can feel something lurking just beneath the surface. The season opens with the arrival of an eclectic group of guests at a stunning wellness resort nestled on the coast of Phuket. The guests, as well as the resort staff, are all in search of something. Whether it's peace, renewal, or redemption, everyone comes to the island hoping to escape their inner turmoil. But the White Lotus has never been a show about peace. Instead, it's about exposing the darkness that hides behind the carefully curated facades of luxury and privilege. And this season, more than ever, delivers on that promise. From the moment the first guest walks through the grand entrance of the resort, we're introduced to a new set of characters, each carrying their own baggage, expectations, and secrets. Among them is Michelle Monaghan's character, Naomi, a successful yet seemingly fragile businesswoman seeking solace after a highly publicized career scandal. Her arrival is marked by an almost palpable sense of desperation, a desire to prove to herself that she can still find balance amidst the chaos of her life. Naomi's vulnerability makes her an instant focal point. She wears her need for redemption like a mask, but as the episodes unfold, we begin to see the cracks in her carefully constructed persona. Then, there's Carrie Coon's character, Julia, a psychologist who specializes in helping high-profile individuals deal with their personal crises. Julia seems to have it all together on the surface, polished, confident, and constantly in control. She's the type of character who initially feels like she's immune to the chaos around her. A professional who, ironically, seems to have little understanding of her own inner conflicts. However, the tension starts to build as Julia interacts with other guests. The more she tries to assert control over the resort's therapy sessions and activities, the more we begin to notice her own inner battles, hinting at a profound emotional struggle that she's hiding. Adding a layer of complexity is Walton Goggins' character, Mason, a former corporate tycoon turned wellness enthusiast. He's arrived at the resort hoping to cleanse his mind and body, but there's an unsettling quality to him. It's not just that he's larger than life, it's that he seems to know more than he's letting on. From the start, Mason exudes an aura of mystery, and it's clear that his presence will disrupt the dynamics of the resort. He's not simply a guest seeking healing. There's a hint of danger to him, a suspicion that his search for wellness is, in fact, a cover for something far darker. The way he interacts with the other guests sets off alarms, and we're left wondering how his story will unfold. As the characters mingle, there's a palpable sense of disconnection. They're all ostensibly there for the same purpose, to escape, to rejuvenate, but they all harbor different motivations and goals. This theme of false pretenses runs through the first half of the season, and it becomes clear that no one is truly at peace with themselves. It's this dissonance that propels the drama forward, and it's in the moments of awkward silences, fleeting glances, and heated arguments where the true tension begins to take shape. One of the most compelling dynamics to watch is the evolving relationship between Naomi and Julia. Initially, they seem to form a tentative bond, both seemingly searching for answers in the same place. However, as the days go on, their friendship begins to fracture under the weight of their personal secrets. Naomi's desperation to regain her former life, her career, her reputation, sets her on a path that makes her more vulnerable and willing to betray those she's met. Julia, on the other hand, is too accustomed to controlling situations, which makes her difficult to truly trust. In one pivotal moment, Naomi, feeling cornered and manipulated, confronts Julia, demanding to know why she's been offering empty therapeutic advice. Julia, defensive yet passive-aggressive, brushes off the accusation, yet the tension between the two is undeniable. This confrontation sets the stage for a deeper unraveling of their psyches, foreshadowing the ultimate betrayal that will shake the resort to its core. Meanwhile, Mason's presence begins to stir unease among the staff. While many of the guests are preoccupied with their own personal dilemmas, Mason becomes increasingly involved in the inner workings of the resort. He's not just a guest. He's an outsider, an intruder in the carefully controlled world the resort has cultivated. Mason begins to question the resort's practices, particularly the wellness activities, raising suspicions among the staff that he may be more than just a curious guest. His behavior, which initially seems harmless, attending yoga sessions, engaging in group meditations, soon takes a darker turn. Mason starts to manipulate the staff in subtle ways, pushing buttons and testing boundaries. His interactions with the resort's manager, Lek, are particularly tense, with the latter growing wary of Mason's probing questions. Lek's unease slowly morphs into outright suspicion, setting up a dramatic power struggle that will soon become impossible to ignore. There's also Natasha Rothwell's character, Lena, a yoga instructor who is initially portrayed as warm and empathetic, but as the episodes go on, her own personal struggles begin to emerge. Lena's backstory is hinted at in the first few episodes, her past relationship with a former lover who was also a guest at the resort, and the grief she's carrying over the loss of her partner, creating a sense of fragility. Her conflict with the other staff members, particularly her tension with Mason, drives much of the drama. The show expertly weaves these personal stories into the broader narrative, allowing for moments of vulnerability that are deeply revealing and often unsettling. It's clear that, like the guests, the staff is also hiding something, and the emotional weight they carry adds another layer of suspense to the story. But it's not just interpersonal conflicts that take center stage in the first half of the season. The setting itself, the lush Thai landscape, serves as a constant reminder of the characters' internal struggles. The wellness resort, with its opulent spa treatments, yoga classes, and tranquil surroundings, creates an environment that feels almost otherworldly. But as the characters begin to break down, the beauty of the location starts to feel more like a trap. The seemingly peaceful surroundings mask a growing sense of dread, an undercurrent of something sinister that builds throughout the episodes. The resort, meant to heal, instead amplifies the chaos that each guest is trying to escape. One pivotal moment that sets the tone for the season occurs during a group excursion to a local temple. While most of the guests are absorbed in their own meditative experiences, a moment of reckless behavior by Mason shatters the illusion of spiritual calm. Mason, ever the provocateur, dismisses the temple's sacredness, joking about its significance and mocking the cultural practices surrounding it. His behavior pushes a few guests to confront their own discomfort with their surroundings, but it also draws the ire of the staff, especially Lena. This moment symbolizes the thematic core of the White Lotus, that no amount of luxury or wellness can hide the darkness within. As the first half of the season unfolds, the stage is set for a series of explosive confrontations. The complex relationships between the guests and staff continue to evolve, and the tension grows with each passing episode. The delicate facade of the resort is beginning to crack, and the personal conflicts that each character is grappling with are starting to spill over into dangerous territory. We can feel the inevitability of something terrible on the horizon. The twists and turns are coming, and though we can't yet see them, we know that the tranquility of Thailand is about to give way to chaos. The characters, once bound together by the shared illusion of paradise, are becoming increasingly isolated as their darkest instincts come to the forefront. With every passing moment, the stakes get higher, and the suspense builds to a boiling point. Something is about to break, and when it does, it will change everything. The first half of the White Lotus Season 3 is a careful orchestration of suspense, psychology, and interpersonal drama. It sets the stage for the chaos to come, layering character motivations, relationships, and conflicts in ways that make us eager to see what happens next. The tension between the characters, the foreshadowing of darker twists, and the unraveling of their carefully crafted facades all contribute to a thrilling and deeply engrossing narrative that demands our attention. We're not just watching a show, we're waiting for the storm to hit. As we transition into the second half of the White Lotus Season 3, the tranquil paradise that once seemed so promising begins to reveal its darker undercurrents. The narrative has shifted from subtle tension to explosive emotional turmoil, with every character inching closer to a breaking point. What started as a retreat for healing and self-reflection has morphed into a pressure cooker, where secrets bubble to the surface, and the cracks in the characters' facades widen until they are impossible to ignore. The luxurious setting of the Thai resort now feels less like a sanctuary and more like a gilded cage. In this high-stakes second act, every character is forced to confront the very thing they came to escape: their own fears, desires, and deep-seated insecurities. The unraveling of these characters is both thrilling and tragic, as their personal conflicts collide in ways that leave them, often literally, broken. The first major twist comes when Mason's true intentions are revealed. Until now, his mysterious behavior and unsettling interactions with the staff and guests seemed like a red herring, just another eccentric guest with ulterior motives. But in a shocking moment, Mason's backstory is unraveled. He is not just a wealthy man on a wellness journey. He's a man running from a much darker past. As the staff begins to piece together his history, it's revealed that Mason was once involved in corporate corruption that led to the downfall of a number of businesses, leaving many people financially ruined. His quest for wellness was not a path of spiritual enlightenment but a form of self-punishment. As his past catches up to him, the facade cracks, revealing a man desperate to atone for crimes he can't undo. Mason's behavior becomes more erratic, especially when he begins to lash out at the resort staff. His interactions with the other guests take a dark turn, as he uses his charm and cunning to manipulate and destabilize those around him. This culminates in an intense confrontation with Lek, the resort manager, who, after discovering Mason's true identity, demands that he leave. Mason, in a cold fury, refuses to go and instead threatens the resort's business interests, revealing his connections to shady figures in the corporate world. The tension between them escalates to a point where Lek is visibly terrified, his previously confident demeanor cracking under Mason's sinister influence. Meanwhile, Naomi and Julia's relationship reaches a boiling point. The tension that has been slowly building between the two throughout the season finally explodes in a confrontation that feels both inevitable and shocking. Naomi, feeling betrayed by Julia's cold, clinical approach to her personal pain, accuses her of being a fraud, of offering hollow advice that doesn't truly address the complex realities of their lives. Julia, in turn, reveals her own deep resentment and frustration, breaking down in front of Naomi in a raw, emotional moment. What began as a tentative connection turns into a bitter, antagonistic exchange that leaves both women emotionally exposed and vulnerable. They both realize, perhaps too late, that they were never truly friends but rather two women projecting their needs and insecurities onto one another. This rupture in their relationship sets off a chain reaction. Naomi, now more unhinged than ever, decides to take matters into her own hands, using the connections she has made at the resort to manipulate and blackmail the staff into doing her bidding. Her desperation for control becomes apparent as she begins to unravel the carefully constructed lives of those around her. Julia, now broken from the emotional toll of her confrontation with Naomi, starts to spiral herself, leading to a moment where she makes a dangerous and impulsive decision, one that will haunt her for the rest of the season. Julia, overcome by the weight of her own unresolved trauma, begins to sabotage her own professional career at the resort, leading to a catastrophic failure of the wellness programs she has been leading. It's a devastating blow, one that not only threatens her career but also endangers the entire resort's reputation. As Naomi's and Julia's destructive behaviors collide, they inadvertently set into motion a much darker event, a tragic accident that leaves one of the resort staff members dead. This shocking turn of events happens after a particularly harrowing yoga session where emotions are raw and tensions are high. Lena, the yoga instructor, has become increasingly unstable throughout the season, her fragile mental state exacerbated by her failed relationships and the mounting pressure at the resort. After an emotional outburst, she inadvertently causes a chain reaction that results in a guest falling from a great height, leading to a death that shakes the entire resort to its core. This moment is pivotal not only because of the tragedy it causes, but because it sets the stage for the unraveling of the entire resort. The death sends shockwaves through the resort, and the once vibrant atmosphere of relaxation and self-discovery is replaced with an overwhelming sense of guilt, paranoia, and fear. The staff members, particularly Lek and Lena, are thrown into a frenzy of trying to cover up the incident, knowing that the resort's reputation could be destroyed if word of the death gets out. In the chaos that follows, we begin to see the true measure of each character's moral compass. Some, like Lek, try desperately to keep the truth buried, while others, like Lena, are racked with guilt and want to come clean. This moral conflict becomes central to the second half of the season, as everyone grapples with the consequences of their actions or their inaction. While the staff deals with the fallout of the death, the guests begin to notice the tension in the air. It's clear to them that something is wrong, though they remain unaware of the full extent of what has transpired. However, Mason, always the wild card, begins to stir the pot, spreading rumors and stirring suspicions. As he becomes increasingly unhinged, his behavior escalates to dangerous levels. In a final, shocking moment, Mason confronts Naomi in a scene that feels like the culmination of all the simmering tension between them. He accuses her of being responsible for the accident, claiming that her manipulative behavior indirectly led to the death of the staff member. Naomi, now completely unraveling, becomes the target of Mason's fury, leading to a violent encounter that leaves both characters physically and emotionally scarred. At the same time, Julia's guilt over her actions reaches a peak. Her psychological breakdown culminates in a poignant, devastating scene where she confesses to the staff that she can no longer be part of the wellness retreat. She admits that she has lost herself in her own professional ambitions and has neglected the very thing that brought her to the resort: healing. Julia's emotional collapse mirrors the unraveling of the resort itself. Her confession comes too late, however, as the damage to the resort's reputation is already done. With the tension at its peak, the season hurtles toward its explosive conclusion. The final moments of the second half are a whirlwind of revelations, betrayals, and moral reckoning. The resort, once a pristine sanctuary, is now a symbol of everything the guests came to escape: tragedy, regret, and the consequences of unchecked desire. Naomi's quest for control ends in disaster, as her manipulation and the secrets she's tried to bury finally come to light. Mason, once the villainous outsider, is left broken and consumed by his own guilt, while Julia, stripped of her professional identity, confronts her failures head-on. The climax of the season occurs in the aftermath of the fatal accident. In a final, breathtaking confrontation between the remaining guests and staff, each character is forced to confront the reality of what they have become. There is no escape from the consequences of their actions, and as the walls close in on them, the truth about the events that transpired comes out in a brutal, unflinching light. The threads of personal ambition, guilt, and moral ambiguity all converge, creating an emotional catharsis that is as tragic as it is inevitable. In the final moments of The White Lotus Season 3, the resort, once a symbol of escapism and indulgence, is revealed to be a place where the darker sides of the human psyche are exposed. The once beautiful oasis has become a prison of their own making, and as the credits roll, we're left with the haunting feeling that no one, not even in paradise, can truly outrun their past. From the very first frame of The White Lotus Season 3, we are thrust into a world of complexity, with a rich array of characters whose desires, fears, and secrets intertwine to create a thrilling, emotionally charged narrative. What makes The White Lotus so engaging isn't just the backdrop of luxury and tension. It's the intricate and compelling characters that drive the story. Each guest and staff member at the Thai Wellness Resort brings their own motivations, and over the course of the season, we watch them shift and evolve in unexpected ways. These characters don't just unfold, they unravel. At the heart of this season's intrigue is Naomi, played with nuance and vulnerability by Michelle Monaghan. Naomi enters the resort as a businesswoman seeking redemption, but her journey quickly turns into something far darker. At first, we are introduced to Naomi as a person trying to reclaim what's been taken from her: her career, her reputation, her sense of control. There's a quiet desperation to her, a fragility hidden beneath her polished exterior. Naomi, ever the strategist, is someone who believes that if she can just fix the pieces of her life that have fallen apart, she will finally be at peace. But peace is not what she finds in Thailand. From the moment she steps onto the resort, Naomi's motivations are clear. She wants to rebuild, to find a new path forward. But as we move deeper into the season, the cracks in her psyche begin to widen. Her need to manipulate those around her, especially Julia, becomes evident. At first, she appears to be the victim of a callous world, but we soon realize that she is not as innocent as she seems. Naomi's transformation from a vulnerable woman seeking redemption to someone willing to betray, manipulate, and control her way back to the top is both tragic and captivating. Monahan gives Naomi a haunting depth, capturing her inner turmoil with every glance and subtle gesture. Naomi's evolution is disturbing, yet strangely empathetic. As she spirals out of control, we feel the weight of her actions, but we also understand how she got there. She's a woman who's spent her life trying to fix things, only to find that some wounds can't be healed through manipulation and control. Carrie Coon's portrayal of Julia, a psychologist who has built her entire life around understanding others, is a masterclass in emotional complexity. Julia is initially presented as calm, collected, and seemingly immune to the chaos that surrounds her. But the more time we spend with her, the more we see the vulnerability lurking beneath her composed facade. Julia's professional success and her intellectual superiority come at a cost. She has lost touch with herself. Her career is built on offering solutions to others, but when faced with her own inner turmoil, she has no answers. Julia's arc is one of unraveling, of facing the very real fact that her own emotional neglect has led her to become the person she never intended to be. Coon brings an understated power to Julia, allowing her to oscillate between strength and fragility in a way that makes her one of the season's most compelling characters. Her relationship with Naomi is particularly interesting, as they start off on a seemingly supportive path, only to implode as Julia's own cracks begin to show. What starts as a professional connection morphs into something more personal, more complex. Julia's breakdowns are some of the most heartbreaking moments of the season, as she tries and fails to regain the control she once had. The cold, rational therapist who believed she could help others is forced to confront her own inability to help herself. Julia's transformation from a poised professional to a woman utterly broken by her own failings is a powerful and unsettling journey. Then there's Mason, portrayed by Walton Goggins with a compelling blend of charm and menace. Mason is, from the start, an enigma. He enters the story as a wealthy man seeking wellness, but his motivations quickly begin to feel more complicated. Mason's search for redemption is less about healing than it is about punishing himself for past misdeeds. What he's running from is not just guilt. He's running from a deeply ingrained sense of self-loathing. As the narrative unfolds, we learn that Mason's past is darker than we could have imagined. Once a powerful corporate figure, he is now a man struggling to redeem himself for the destruction he caused in the business world. But rather than truly seeking redemption, Mason is fixated on the idea of cleansing himself. His toxic self-flagellation alienates those around him, but we understand it. It's a man who feels that he doesn't deserve the life he has and thus seeks to punish himself further. Goggins' performance is riveting because it doesn't offer easy answers. He's not just the villain. He's a man who believes he's earned his own punishment. His tension with the staff, especially Lek, is palpably uncomfortable, as Mason weaves his way through their lives with manipulative intent. His final breakdown, as his dark past is exposed, is both shocking and tragically human. Mason's journey is a dark exploration of how guilt can warp a person's soul, and Goggins embodies this internal conflict with chilling authenticity. Supporting characters like Lek and Lena are also essential to the emotional landscape of the season. Lek, the resort's manager, is a man caught between his duty to his guests and his own moral compass. Played with a quiet intensity, Lek represents the conflict of trying to maintain order in a world that's falling apart. His initial control over the resort is slowly eroded as the events spiral beyond anyone's grasp, but his internal conflict about what to reveal, what to cover up, and whom to protect makes him a sympathetic figure, even when his actions seem morally ambiguous. As Mason's power over him grows, Lek becomes increasingly desperate, driven by the fear that if the truth gets out, everything he's worked for will collapse. Lena, the yoga instructor, is perhaps the most tragic character of the season. Played with emotional depth by Natasha Rothwell, Lena begins as a character who seems almost saintly, calm, nurturing, and deeply attuned to her guests' emotional needs. But beneath her serene exterior, Lena is crumbling. She's grieving a past relationship, and the pressures of her role in the wellness resort only exacerbate her inner turmoil. Lena's story becomes one of self-destruction. As she tries to guide others through their own healing, she can't heal herself, and her emotional breakdown leads to one of the season's most gut-wrenching moments. Her involvement in the tragic accident changes everything, leaving her struggling to reconcile the woman she once was with the person she has become. These supporting characters, each with their own backstory and motivations, are not just fillers. They are integral to the unfolding drama. Every character in The White Lotus plays a role in the larger narrative, and each one adds layers of complexity to the central themes of the season: guilt, redemption, and the consequences of unchecked desire. The beauty of the show lies in how each character's actions, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, ripples out to affect everyone around them. Throughout the season, the supporting characters create a rich tapestry that adds texture to the main storylines. They serve as mirrors for the guests, reflecting the ways in which the pursuit of inner peace can either heal or destroy. Every encounter with them feels purposeful, drawing out the central themes of moral ambiguity, self-deception, and the fragility of human connections. It's through these smaller interactions, often overlooked, that the show explores how people live with their contradictions and how the world often forces them into morally gray areas. As the season hurtles toward its explosive climax, it's impossible not to see how every character's arc intersects in the final moments. Naomi's desperation, Julia's emotional unraveling, Mason's self-destructive guilt, and Lex's moral dilemma all come to a head in ways that feel both tragic and inevitable. The performances, grounded in the vulnerability of their characters, are the heart of this journey. These characters are not just written with complexity. They are brought to life by actors who breathe humanity into their flaws, their fears, and their desires. In the end, the characters of The White Lotus are unforgettable not because they are perfect, but because they are so painfully real. They are people who grapple with the very things that make us human: the need for validation, the burden of guilt, the fear of being exposed, and the elusive hope for redemption. As we watch them falter, we understand that no one, no matter how well they disguise it, can escape the consequences of their choices. In the serene and toxic world of The White Lotus, these characters' arcs stand as a testament to the complexity of human nature, both beautiful and broken. The world of The White Lotus Season 3, 2025, is rich with layers upon layers of subtle details, cultural references, and clever foreshadowing that create a textured, immersive experience for viewers willing to dive deeper. What makes this series so compelling isn't just the shocking twists and emotional arcs. It's the quiet intricacies that lie beneath the surface. These hidden gems elevate the story, enriching the viewing experience in ways that might otherwise go unnoticed. Whether it's a visual callback, a symbolic object, or a moment of foreshadowing, The White Lotus is a masterclass in subtlety and clever writing. From the moment we step into the Thai resort, we're immersed in a world that feels luxurious and serene on the surface, yet every corner of it is brimming with subtext. The show, as always, plays with contrasts between the idyllic beauty of the environment and the darkness that simmers just below. It's no surprise, then, that many of the season's most important details exist in the background, often unseen by those whose attention is fixed solely on the chaos of the plot. But for the attentive viewer, these elements deepen the story in profound ways. One of the earliest and most subtle details in The White Lotus Season 3 is the use of traditional Thai art and architecture. The resort, of course, is a stunning visual backdrop, but it's the small touches that make it an integral part of the story. Throughout the season, the design elements, such as the intricate carvings in the walls, the sacred images of deities, and the juxtaposition of modern luxury with ancient symbols, mirror the central conflict of the characters. The characters themselves, in their pursuit of inner peace and self-fulfillment, are often in direct tension with the historical and cultural significance of the land they've chosen to inhabit. The use of Buddhist iconography throughout the series is a significant point of symbolism. Early on, we see the guests casually interacting with statues of revered figures, often unaware of the deep cultural meaning behind them. For example, Naomi, with her obsession for control, often finds herself in the resort's meditative spaces, trying to center herself amidst the chaos of her emotions. However, her repeated interactions with a particular Buddha statue, its serene, almost mocking smile, become increasingly noticeable. In Buddhist philosophy, the smile of the Buddha represents an enlightened detachment from worldly suffering. Naomi's inability to achieve that same detachment and her mounting frustration with her failures seem to reflect a clash between her modern worldview and the ancient wisdom of the land. This subtle contrast between Naomi's desperate need for control and the serene acceptance embodied by the Buddha becomes an underlying tension throughout the season, foreshadowing the unraveling of her carefully constructed life. Another visually striking yet subtly impactful detail lies in the colors used throughout the resort's architecture. The resort is predominantly bathed in warm, golden hues, the kind of colors that evoke a sense of luxury, comfort, and peace. Yet, as the series progresses and the tension builds, we begin to see the interplay of shadows, often in contrast to the warmth, as the character's inner turmoil becomes more pronounced. This visual choice underscores the growing dissonance between the exterior calm of the environment and the psychological breakdowns occurring within the characters. A perfect example of this occurs during the yoga sessions, where the guests are bathed in golden light, yet the framing of the shot often places the characters in the shadows or with ominous, darkened backgrounds, hinting at the spiritual and emotional battles they are fighting, often unbeknownst to one another. The use of water as a recurring motif is another striking example of how symbolism is woven into the narrative. In the first few episodes, we are introduced to the tranquil waters surrounding the resort, symbolizing calmness, renewal, and purification. But as the season progresses, water begins to take on a more ominous connotation. A key example occurs when Lena, the yoga instructor, has a dreamlike sequence where she's swimming in the resort's pool, surrounded by guests. The water, once clear and serene, now seems darker and heavier. The camera lingers on her as she struggles to stay afloat, her movements frantic. The water here symbolizes the rising emotional pressure she's under. The deeper she swims, the harder it becomes to breathe. This subtle foreshadowing hints at Lena's inevitable breakdown, her inability to surface from the overwhelming weight of her guilt and pain. This transformation of water from serene to oppressive mirrors the psychological journey of the characters themselves. Just as they enter the resort seeking peace and healing, they soon find themselves trapped in an emotional undertow. It's a visual metaphor for the internal conflicts each character is facing, particularly as their darker instincts and secrets rise to the surface. As with previous seasons of The White Lotus, the soundtrack is another critical element of storytelling, often serving as an additional layer of meaning. The music is carefully curated to reflect both the serenity of the Thai landscape and the tension that lurks beneath. Early in the season, we hear soft, traditional Thai melodies, giving the impression of harmony and balance. But as the season progresses, the music shifts, becoming more discordant and jarring. During scenes of intense emotional conflict, the traditional sounds are sometimes overlaid with sharp, electronic undertones, symbolizing the technological, modern world crashing against the ancient traditions of Thailand. This sonic evolution is particularly evident in the score during Naomi's scenes, where her increasing sense of desperation and chaos is reflected in the increasingly dissonant music that accompanies her. It's an audibly striking reminder that despite the luxurious surroundings, peace is often fleeting for those who cannot let go of their burdens. One of the most interesting hidden details in The White Lotus Season 3 is the recurrent appearance of a specific traditional Thai artifact, a small, intricately carved wooden box. The first time we see it, it seems innocuous enough. It's tucked away in the corner of a shelf in the resort spa area, almost overlooked by the camera. But throughout the season, the box appears in various scenes, often in the background or as part of a prop during a key moment of tension. Its presence is initially subtle, but as the story unfolds, it becomes symbolic of the secrets the characters are carrying with them. Whether it's Naomi's manipulation, Julia's emotional scars, or Mason's dark past. In the second half of the season, the box becomes a focal point in one of the most pivotal scenes. When Mason finally confronts Naomi, accusing her of hiding her true nature behind her veneer of politeness. The camera lingers on the box in the background. Naomi's defensive posture, her tight-lipped expression, and her refusal to confront the truth are all mirrored by the box's closed, locked nature. The box is never opened, its contents hidden from view, much like the character's motivations and flaws, which remain concealed until the inevitable moment when everything comes crashing to the surface. Perhaps one of the most satisfying Easter eggs for attentive viewers comes during the episode where Lena's breakdown begins to take shape. Early on in the series, we see her giving a serene yoga session to a group of guests, including a woman named Erica, who looks particularly uncomfortable. While Lena offers her gentle words of wisdom, the camera lingers on Erica's face, a subtle moment that initially seems inconsequential. But in a later episode, as Lena begins to unravel, Erica reappears in a scene where she confides in one of the other guests that she is, in fact, a journalist covering the wellness industry. Her appearance, brief as it is, serves as an unexpected but significant callback to earlier moments, revealing the complex layers of surveillance that exist within the wellness world. It's a quiet reminder that even the most intimate settings are often watched, judged, and commodified, a theme that plays heavily throughout the series. Finally, the closing shot of the season offers one of the most haunting and elusive Easter eggs of all: a reflection. As the camera pans over the aftermath of the tragic events, we catch a brief glimpse of a glass surface, perhaps the resort's tranquil pool or a window, where the reflections of the characters are distorted, fragmented. These reflections are an eerie visual metaphor for the fractured selves the characters have become. The once polished, controlled personas they put forward have been shattered by their choices, and in these fragmented images, we are reminded that the idealized versions of themselves they hoped to project have been irreparably distorted. In the end, these hidden details and Easter eggs elevate the experience of The White Lotus Season 3. They weave together into a tapestry of subtle symbolism, foreshadowing, and callbacks that reward those who pay attention. The world of The White Lotus is one that, when examined closely, reveals its many layers, each one offering new insight into the complex characters and themes at the heart of the story. From the architecture to the soundtrack, the props to the visual motifs, every element in the show is carefully crafted to enhance the narrative and deepen the viewer's connection to the world and its characters. For those willing to look beyond the surface, The White Lotus reveals itself to be a stunning work of visual storytelling, where nothing is ever quite as it seems. Beyond the acting, the crew's creative decisions in crafting the atmosphere of The White Lotus are worth noting. One of the most memorable decisions involved the lighting of the spa scenes. These segments were intentionally shot with minimal lighting to evoke a sense of intimacy and tension. Cinematographer John DeBont explained that he wanted viewers to feel as though they were stepping into an emotionally charged, almost claustrophobic environment. The faint light, soft shadows, and highly controlled compositions were intended to place the characters under a psychological microscope. The lighting often feels oppressive, reflecting the inner struggles of the characters as they grapple with guilt, desire, and deceit. This decision was risky, as it diverged from traditional methods of portraying luxury resorts in a glamorous, high-key style. But it worked, making the audience feel the discomfort and conflict that boiled beneath the surface of the serene, luxury setting. Of course, with a show as big as The White Lotus, unexpected moments of controversy were bound to arise. In one of the more shocking moments behind the scenes, several cast members had to be reprimanded for disregarding the traditional customs of the Thai resort. A few actors, unfamiliar with the country's customs, were caught making culturally insensitive remarks, which caused a ripple of tension among the crew. The production team quickly addressed the issue, holding a meeting with the cast and crew to ensure everyone understood the importance of cultural respect. It was a learning experience for all involved, reminding them of the importance of being mindful in their portrayal of foreign cultures and the responsibility that comes with it. Perhaps the most controversial moment, however, was a scene involving a climactic confrontation between two central characters. The scene had been scripted with a highly emotional and physically intense exchange, but during the filming, the tension between the actors became palpable. At one point, an impromptu argument between Michelle Monaghan and Walton Goggins broke out, as the actors had very different interpretations of their characters' motivations during the scene. The crew was forced to step in, and a tense negotiation occurred to ensure that the scene's emotional weight would be preserved while maintaining professionalism on set. Afterward, both actors admitted that the argument was part of the process, as they pushed each other to their limits in order to create a more authentic performance. The incident, while unexpected, was a testament to the passion and dedication of the cast, but it also created a lingering tension that only deepened the portrayal of their characters' psychological and emotional turmoil. In the end, the production of The White Lotus Season 3 was filled with challenges, surprising moments, and, most importantly, a commitment to creating something unique. From the physical demands of filming in a remote location to the deeply personal stories the cast brought to their characters, every element of the show required an incredible amount of creativity and perseverance. It was a production that tested the boundaries of both the cast's performances and the crew's technical prowess, resulting in a season that not only captivated viewers but also left them with lingering questions long after the final credits rolled. The fascinating stories behind the scenes of The White Lotus Season 3 only make the show that much more compelling, adding layers of intrigue to a series already rich with complexity and drama. There's something mesmerizing about The White Lotus Season 3, 2025, that grips audiences from start to finish, but it's in the most pivotal moments of the show that the true emotional depth, thematic richness, and cultural commentary come to life. As much as the series is known for its luxurious settings, biting satire, and suspenseful twists, it's those key scenes, carefully crafted and executed, that linger in the viewer's mind, sparking conversations long after the credits roll. These moments encapsulate the essence of the show, elevating it from a simple narrative of vacationers gone wrong to a multi-layered exploration of human nature, social dynamics, and the contradictions within us all. One of the most impactful scenes in The White Lotus Season 3 takes place early in the season when Naomi, played by Michelle Monaghan, confronts a deeply unsettling truth about herself during a meditation session. As the session progresses, Naomi's initial calm and composure gradually crumble, revealing the deep cracks in her character's carefully constructed persona. The peaceful, idyllic setting of the resort, coupled with the meditative atmosphere, should serve as a moment of clarity for her, but instead, it becomes a symbolic battleground for Naomi's internal conflict. The contrast between the tranquil surroundings and her growing emotional chaos is stark, and this juxtaposition makes the moment all the more powerful. Naomi, who has appeared in control up until this point, begins to exhibit signs of desperation, and as her calm facade slips away, so too does the audience's perception of her as a pristine, well-put-together individual. In this moment, Monaghan's performance shines. There's no overacting, just a quiet, palpable tension that builds as Naomi fights against the overwhelming forces of guilt, anger, and frustration. It's a scene that invites the viewer to question the nature of self-image and the ways in which we hold ourselves together, especially when the illusion of perfection starts to crack. Emotionally, this scene is a turning point for Naomi, but it also serves as an important thematic pivot for the entire series. The meditation session symbolizes a broader theme of spiritual awakening that runs throughout The White Lotus, but with a critical twist. While the characters have come to Thailand seeking inner peace, self-discovery, and personal healing, their emotional states grow more fractured and complex. The symbolic nature of this moment serves as a critique of wellness culture and self-actualization, which, in the case of Naomi, becomes another means of avoidance. Rather than finding peace, the characters are often more disconnected from themselves, reinforcing the show's skepticism about the ability of external environments or practices to deliver genuine personal transformation. Another key moment comes later in the season, during a heart-stopping confrontation between Julia, Carrie Coon, and Mason, Walton Goggins. This scene is significant not just for its emotional intensity, but because it encapsulates the core conflict of the season, the clash between personal desires and moral boundaries. Julia, who has spent much of the season appearing calm, composed, and even somewhat detached, reveals a different side of herself during this exchange. The truth about her internal struggles finally comes to the forefront, and what was initially a simmering tension between the characters suddenly erupts into an emotional explosion. This confrontation is charged with raw emotion, Julia's guilt, frustration, and vulnerability are laid bare, while Mason's resentment and pent-up anger boil over. The way the camera lingers on their faces, capturing every flicker of emotion, amplifies the drama of the moment. The vulnerability that Julia exposes feels almost unbearable, and it's at this point that the audience truly understands the full weight of her emotional journey. What makes this moment so impactful is its emotional complexity. Julia is a character who, up until this point, seemed somewhat distant from the show's chaos. She appeared like a person who could keep her emotions under control, but this confrontation reveals the cracks in her facade. For the audience, it's a sobering reminder that no one, no matter how put together they may seem, is immune to the psychological strain of carrying deep, unresolved trauma. The power of this scene lies not only in the rawness of the performances but also in how it showcases one of the show's recurring themes: the complexity of the human psyche. People are not just good or bad. They are layered and conflicted, and this scene encapsulates that perfectly. It also acts as a precursor to the emotional unraveling of the characters, setting the stage for the final explosive events that unfold in the latter half of the season. Then there's the much-anticipated and ultimately gut-wrenching scene in the final act of the season. This scene takes place in the aftermath of a shocking tragedy that leaves viewers breathless. It's a moment of profound emotional release, a culmination of all the character arcs, conflicts, and simmering tensions that have been building up over the course of the series. Without giving away too many spoilers, this tragic moment forces all the characters to confront the consequences of their actions in ways that they can no longer ignore. For some, it's a moment of catharsis, a chance to acknowledge their guilt, shame, or responsibility. For others, it's a painful reminder that they have crossed a point of no return. The final scenes offer a resolution to some storylines but leave enough questions open to fuel debates and analysis among viewers. Thematically, this scene is the show's commentary on the price of privilege, the consequences of self-delusion, and the fragility of human relationships. It underscores the central tension of the White Lotus, that in a world where appearance and perception reign supreme, the truths we try to bury, whether personal flaws or moral shortcomings, have a way of surfacing with devastating consequences. In these final moments, the audience is forced to reckon with the characters' actions in a way that feels both inevitable and tragic. The show's usual blend of humor and sharp social critique takes a backseat to a poignant, unrelenting exploration of the fallout from unchecked privilege and self-serving behavior. While this climactic scene is the most obvious moment of emotional impact, the smaller, quieter scenes are just as crucial in shaping the overall emotional experience. One such scene occurs during a casual conversation between Lena, Naomi's friend, and the resort's spiritual guide, where Lena begins to express her mounting anxiety about her place in the world. Her vulnerability is exposed in a tender, understated exchange that stands in stark contrast to the other more dramatic moments in the show. It's in these smaller moments that the show's themes of disillusionment, internal conflict, and emotional struggle resonate on a more personal level. The subtlety of these scenes allows the audience to empathize with the characters on a deeper level, as their personal crises unfold not through grand gestures but through intimate, quiet exchanges. This sequence also illustrates one of the recurring themes in The White Lotus: the tension between the characters' search for enlightenment and their inability to truly connect with the deeper aspects of themselves and others. The spiritual guidance Lena seeks seems almost laughable when contrasted with her internal turmoil. It's in these quiet moments, where characters try and fail to reconcile their outward appearance with their internal realities, that the series' critique of the wellness industry and its often hollow promises is most biting. The show suggests that, while seeking peace and transformation can be a noble goal, the path toward healing is never as straightforward or simple as it may seem. Another incredibly poignant and impactful scene occurs during the final dinner at the resort, when the guests gather to share a final toast. This seemingly innocent moment takes on a darker undertone as it becomes clear that the characters are not just physically disconnected from each other but emotionally isolated. The camera zooms in on small details, the slight shifts in body language, the awkward silences, the lingering glances that speak volumes about the growing divide between the characters. Each character's attempt at forming genuine connections is either thwarted or compromised, creating an atmosphere of profound loneliness despite the collective gathering. This moment perfectly encapsulates the show's overarching themes of human isolation and the inability to truly connect, even in a setting designed for relaxation and interpersonal connection. Finally, the show's ending leaves audiences reeling, some with satisfaction, others with a sense of unease. The finale strikes a delicate balance between offering closure and leaving room for ambiguity, a hallmark of the White Lotus that ensures its legacy will endure. While some plot threads are neatly wrapped up, others are deliberately left unresolved, encouraging viewers to ponder the implications of the characters' actions long after the show has ended. Each of these key moments, whether it's a tense confrontation, an emotional breakdown, or a quiet reflection, helps to shape the emotional landscape of The White Lotus Season 3. They serve not only to push the narrative forward, but also to deepen the audience's connection to the characters and themes. The emotional depth of these moments, combined with their thematic significance, makes this season one of the most compelling entries in the series. From the subtle exploration of privilege and guilt to the explosive emotional climaxes, The White Lotus Season 3 offers a masterclass in crafting moments that resonate long after the credits have rolled. The production of The White Lotus Season 3, 2025, is a masterclass in creative innovation, pushing the boundaries of television in both narrative structure and technical execution. From its breathtaking visual aesthetic to its subtle, yet sophisticated exploration of character psychology, the season stands as a testament to the remarkable work done behind the scenes. While the opulence of the resort setting and the intricate web of interpersonal drama on display might seem like the heart of the series, it's the production team's ability to fuse artistry and technology that elevates the experience and ensures that every moment, every scene, is imbued with emotional resonance and thematic weight. The choice of location alone speaks volumes about the show's ambition. Filming in Thailand not only introduced a fresh geographical and cultural backdrop, but also posed its own unique set of challenges. From a visual standpoint, the decision to set the season in such a vibrant and diverse environment demanded innovative techniques to highlight both the beauty and the underlying darkness of the locale. The production team had to strike a delicate balance between showcasing the lush, idyllic scenery and weaving in the subtext of the characters' darker motivations. Cinematographer John DeBont's decision to capture the natural beauty of Thailand with muted, soft light was integral to this effect. Rather than relying on the high-key lighting typically used to depict tropical resorts, DeBont employed an almost dreamlike haze, which created a surreal atmosphere that mirrored the characters' emotional tumult. The color palette of the show is one of the first things viewers notice. The film's setting, lush jungles, golden beaches, and ancient temples, was carefully matched by the team with a color scheme that both reflected the vibrancy of the environment and subtly underlined the deeper emotional stakes of the narrative. The use of saturated colors in certain moments, like the intense reds and purples of a sunset that mirrors a character's internal anguish, contrasts with the serene blues and greens of the resort's pools and gardens. These color choices weren't just visual flourishes. They told a story of emotional contrasts, of inner turmoil beneath the calm exterior. Every shot was meticulously framed to create an unsettling juxtaposition between beauty and brutality, a hallmark of the show's visual language. The delicate interplay between light, color, and shadow created a sense of quiet tension, making each scene feel like a tightrope walk between serenity and chaos. One of the most groundbreaking achievements of the season, however, was the seamless integration of the environment with the emotional arcs of the characters. The production team, understanding that the setting itself is as much a character as any of the actors, designed the resort to reflect the psychological states of the main characters. The sprawling hotel was divided into different zones, each one serving a symbolic purpose. For example, Naomi's personal journey is marked by her increasing isolation, which is mirrored by her frequent scenes in the resort's more secluded, overgrown areas. These locations become more oppressive as Naomi's emotional state deteriorates. By contrast, the characters who appear to have a better grasp on their emotions, such as Julia, are often filmed in the luxurious, well-maintained parts of the resort, symbolizing their external calm despite the chaos that brews beneath the surface. This nuanced approach to set design allowed the visuals to subtly communicate the inner struggles of the characters, making the resort itself a key player in the psychological drama. Beyond the visual design, the technical side of the White Lotus Season 3's production offered its own unique challenges. One of the most notable behind-the-scenes hurdles was the difficulty of filming in a remote location. The resort, while stunning, was located far from major cities, meaning that most of the crew had to travel to the area by boat, and there were no easy means of transportation for set materials or equipment. The production team had to get creative in order to meet the demands of the script while working with limited resources. For instance, many of the larger scenes involving multiple characters were filmed in the early morning hours, when the team had to carefully manage lighting in the midst of an unpredictable tropical climate. There were also times when the crew had to wait out monsoon rainstorms, knowing that any rain could ruin a shot in an instant. As a result, many of the film's most dramatic outdoor scenes were captured in a very short window of opportunity, creating a sense of urgency that translated into the intensity of the performances. Another aspect of the technical process that stood out was the extensive use of sound design to create a heightened sense of unease. Sound plays an incredibly important role in building the atmosphere of the White Lotus, and Season 3 used a combination of natural and artificial soundscapes to create a sense of disquiet that permeates every scene. While the gentle sounds of the ocean and distant birds could have easily lulled the characters and the audience into a false sense of tranquility, the sound team subtly layered in more unsettling noises that gradually grew louder as the characters' emotions became more fraught. The rustling of the trees in the wind, the faint hum of the resort's air conditioning, and the repetitive thrum of the jungle outside all create a sense of suffocating claustrophobia, as if the characters cannot escape the oppressive nature of the place they have chosen to seek refuge. The juxtaposition of natural sounds with the characters' internal turmoil is mirrored through the music as well. The season's score, composed by the talented duo of Cristobal Tapia de Veer and Felix White, plays an instrumental role in shaping the audience's emotional response. One of the standout tracks is a slow, haunting melody that echoes throughout the season, tied to a key character's unraveling. The use of traditional Thai instruments combined with electronic elements gives the score a unique texture, grounding it in its setting while simultaneously adding a layer of eeriness and tension. The score's ability to rise and fall with the emotional rhythms of the characters is something that enriches the show, providing a visceral connection to their emotional states. Interestingly, there was a bold choice made during production regarding the lack of traditional musical cues. In moments of intense character revelation or emotional climax, rather than a swelling orchestral score, the soundtrack often falls eerily silent or relies on sparse, minimalist sounds. This choice was made in collaboration with the director and writers, who believed that silence could be just as powerful as music in conveying the emotional gravity of a moment. One example of this is a scene late in the season where a character reaches a boiling point in their emotional journey. The silence is deafening, and the viewer is left to stew in the tension, making the moment all the more jarring and powerful. Filmmaking techniques were also employed to elicit certain emotions from the audience. The show's characteristic long, drawn-out takes, sometimes lingering for minutes, have become one of its signature stylistic choices. These lingering shots allow the audience to feel the weight of the moment, forcing them to sit in the discomfort and tension with the characters. The production team used this technique to their advantage in key scenes, such as when two characters have an emotionally charged confrontation in one of the resort's lavish suites. The camera lingers on their faces, capturing every shift in expression and movement. This intimacy with the characters helps to draw the viewer deeper into the psychological complexity of the show, creating a sense of immediacy that wouldn't be as palpable in quicker cuts. A particularly innovative technical achievement came during a critical underwater sequence. As one of the show's most pivotal moments unfolds beneath the water's surface, the technical team had to use a mixture of practical effects and CGI to create a seamless, immersive experience. For the underwater scenes, the actors were trained to perform in a submerged tank, where the production team employed underwater cameras that allowed the actors' performances to be captured in real time, rather than relying on heavy post-production manipulation. The combination of real underwater footage and subtle CGI effects created a surreal, dreamlike quality, intensifying the emotional stakes of the scene. The technical prowess displayed in these underwater sequences pushed the limits of what had been done on television and established The White Lotus Season 3 as a visually daring piece of work. Perhaps one of the most daring creative choices came when the production team decided to use the resort's architecture as a mirror of the characters' emotional states. The architectural design of the resort plays a subtle yet crucial role throughout the season. While it appears perfectly symmetrical, almost too pristine, cracks in the design can be found in subtle places, symbolizing the characters' own fractured psyches. The team used camera angles to emphasize the stark lines of the resort's architecture, framing it in such a way that it almost felt suffocating. The characters' movements within these spaces often reflect their emotional journeys, an oppressive metaphor that is both visually striking and thematically rich. In this way, the production team turned the resort into not just a backdrop, but a reflection of the characters' internal landscapes, enhancing the overall sense of emotional tension. In terms of storytelling, the production team made deliberate choices in terms of the pacing and narrative structure. The decision to introduce seemingly trivial scenes, such as a character getting a massage or engaging in light conversation in the spa, was made to lull the audience into a false sense of security before diving into the deeper, more emotionally charged moments. These pauses in action allow the tension to build slowly and deliberately, making the moments of confrontation and crisis hit that much harder. By the end of The White Lotus Season 3, the production team had once again proven their ability to combine technical mastery with creative flair. From the innovative use of sound and visuals to the seamless integration of the environment into the emotional arcs of the characters, the production of this season was nothing short of groundbreaking. The show's ability to create such an immersive world is a result of countless hours of hard work, technical expertise, and, most importantly, an unwavering commitment to elevating the narrative experience. Every camera angle, every sound cue, and every piece of set design was purposefully crafted to build an emotional connection with the audience, creating a deeply immersive and unforgettable viewing experience. The White Lotus Season 3, 2025, delivers more than just high-stakes drama, stunning visuals, and unforgettable performances. At its core, the series is a sophisticated exploration of human nature, personal struggles, and the complex interplay between privilege, identity, and societal expectations. Through the lens of a lavish vacation in Thailand, the show weaves intricate themes and symbolism, while offering a sharp, often biting commentary on the world we inhabit. As we journey through the lives of its characters, we start to see how the film's deeper messages reveal themselves, with each interaction and scene dripping with hidden meaning. The resort setting, an idyllic paradise where guests are treated with an almost reverential luxury, serves as the perfect metaphor for the modern world's obsession with appearance, comfort, and outward perfection. As the characters slowly peel back the layers of their seemingly picture-perfect lives, we realize that, much like the meticulously designed hotel, their lives too are fraught with cracks and fractures. It's in this space of illusion and reality that The White Lotus Season 3 comes alive, playing on the tension between the glossy exterior of vacation and the gnawing discontent that simmers beneath the surface. One of the most prominent themes explored throughout the season is the idea of privilege. Specifically, how privilege warps perception, leads to emotional numbness, and blinds individuals to the suffering of others. The guests at the resort, many of whom come from wealthy backgrounds, seek out the experience of personal growth and spiritual enlightenment. But the true weight of their privilege never escapes them. The serene landscape, the expensive treatments, and the luxury they receive throughout the series are presented as ways for the characters to escape their real-world struggles. But the show, rather than providing them with the peace and healing they are hoping for, instead highlights the internal fractures that their wealth and privilege have only deepened. They believe the resort can provide them with something they're missing, whether it's peace, intimacy, or clarity, but instead, it magnifies their insecurities and exposes their flaws in ways they can't ignore. In one particularly telling scene, Naomi, Michelle Monaghan, attends a meditation session intended to help her reconnect with herself. In a place designed for ultimate relaxation, she instead finds herself facing an emotional breakdown. This scene perfectly encapsulates the symbolic dissonance between the character's outwardly serene environment and the internal chaos they struggle to contain. The luxurious setting is meant to foster peace, yet it only seems to deepen the character's discontent. Naomi's journey into self-awareness, rather than being one of spiritual awakening, becomes a confrontation with the hollowness that often accompanies extreme wealth. Her realization that the pursuit of material success has left her emotionally adrift is one of the season's most poignant moments, illustrating the show's critique of how wealth can breed a type of emotional numbness. The contrast between the guests' expectations and their actual experiences is a running motif that exposes the discomfort inherent in modern life's obsession with comfort. The very notion of a vacation is turned on its head, as we see how the pursuit of relaxation can come with hidden emotional costs. The characters may physically escape their hectic lives, but they can never truly escape themselves. This speaks to a larger, more profound societal truth. The desire for external solutions to internal problems is a fool's errand. The White Lotus highlights how this cycle, so deeply ingrained in our culture, only ever exacerbates the sense of dissatisfaction and isolation that wealth and comfort can create. However, it's not just personal dissatisfaction that The White Lotus critiques. The show also tackles the broader, ever-present social issue of economic disparity and the tension between the rich and those who serve them. While the guests are catered to in every way, the staff at the resort remains in the background, performing their duties with calculated detachment. The resort itself, a pristine monument to luxury, is also a stark reminder of the inequality that permeates society. The staff, many of whom work long hours for little pay, offer a silent but powerful critique of the lavishness enjoyed by the guests. This tension plays out most vividly when we witness the interactions between the guests and staff, often marked by a subtle but palpable sense of discomfort. While the guests take everything in stride, enjoying their treatment like it's their due, the staff are constantly aware of their positions, and their passive resentment builds in the background. This power dynamic, constantly shifting, mirrors the very real hierarchies that exist in the world outside the resort. The theme of exploitation is further explored through the character of Julia, Carrie Coon, whose interactions with the resort's workers become a window into the way privilege breeds a sense of entitlement. Early in the season, Julia is presented as a well-meaning, if somewhat naive, figure who genuinely believes she is improving her life through her time at the resort. But as the season progresses, her attitude toward the staff begins to reveal a darker side, one where her wealth and status lead her to view the workers as subhuman. The show doesn't shy away from exploring this uncomfortable reality. Julia's belief that her money allows her to sidestep basic moral considerations leads her into a series of emotionally charged interactions with the resort's employees, culminating in a powerful moment where her privilege is undeniably questioned. What initially seems like a storyline about personal growth soon morphs into a pointed social critique of the blind self-interest that wealth often perpetuates. While The White Lotus offers an unapologetic critique of wealth and privilege, it also takes a closer look at the emotional cost of striving for status and success. It explores how the pursuit of happiness and self-fulfillment can sometimes be more destructive than restorative. The symbolic elements throughout the season reinforce this idea. For instance, the design of the resort itself becomes an emblem of unattainable perfection, an illusion that the characters chase relentlessly. But as we learn, the resort is not just a utopia. It's a meticulously constructed facade, built to conceal the reality of an island and a culture that exists in stark contrast to the comforts enjoyed by the guests. In a sense, the resort is a mirror of the characters' own lives, gilded on the surface but hollow at its core. It's a place that promises a solution to the emptiness they feel, yet delivers only more emptiness, forcing them to reckon with the hollowness of their pursuit. Another crucial symbol throughout the series is the recurring imagery of water. Whether it's the serene pools or the crashing waves on the shore, water serves as a constant reminder of the characters' internal states, fluid, ever-changing, and often threatening to overwhelm them. For some characters, water symbolizes cleansing, rebirth, and escape. For others, it represents the deep, uncontrollable forces of their emotions, threatening to drag them under. The underwater sequences in particular become an expression of these emotional undercurrents, where characters come face to face with their submerged desires and fears. Water is a fluid, boundaryless space, much like the tension between the characters' inner lives and their external personas. The relentless pull of the water symbolizes the struggle to maintain control in a world that is both demanding and unyielding. As we look deeper into the social commentary woven throughout The White Lotus, it's impossible to ignore its exploration of modern identity. The show interrogates the ways in which individuals shape themselves, their desires, and their actions based on the expectations placed on them by society. In this respect, The White Lotus mirrors the larger cultural discussion about identity, who we are versus who we present ourselves to be, and the dissonance that arises when the two come into conflict. Naomi's journey in particular highlights the emptiness that can result from living according to the standards set by others. She spends much of the season clinging to an idealized version of herself, only to have it slowly disintegrate in the face of personal and emotional truths. In this sense, her arc serves as a cautionary tale of what can happen when one becomes too entrenched in a constructed identity, unable or unwilling to face the vulnerability and imperfection of the self. The theme of identity is also explored through the character of Lena, Sophie Turner, who becomes increasingly disconnected from the person she thought she was. Throughout the series, Lena's desire to fit in with the guests and the allure of the resort's promise of reinvention clash with her growing unease about the compromises she's making. The narrative questions the very notion of self-discovery, suggesting that true growth can only come through an acknowledgement of the parts of ourselves we would rather hide. At its core, The White Lotus Season 3 is a sharp, incisive look at the intersection of privilege, identity, and self-deception. Through the symbolic elements of its storytelling and its willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, the show exposes the complexities of human nature in ways that feel both universal and deeply personal. It captures the fragility of the human condition, the dangers of self-delusion, and the consequences of ignoring the systems of power that shape our lives. Ultimately, The White Lotus forces its viewers to confront the darker realities of the world we live in, those that lurk beneath the surface of even the most beautiful, idyllic settings. In doing so, it encourages us to question the very nature of the lives we lead, the choices we make, and the systems of power that govern us. In The White Lotus Season 3, 2025, the visual storytelling is not merely a backdrop for the drama. It is an essential language that communicates much of the film's thematic weight, from the meticulous composition of each shot to the ways in which sound and music guide the emotional currents of the narrative. The show employs a diverse range of cinematic techniques to enhance both the viewer's immersion and understanding. Every frame, every movement, every choice in the editing room serves a singular purpose: to draw the audience into a world of glossy perfection that harbors deeply fractured souls. The setting of the Thai resort itself, bathed in the splendor of tropical beauty, acts as a perfect canvas for director Mike White's unique vision. At first glance, the paradise-like environment seems serene, even idyllic, but beneath the surface lies a seething tension that slowly unravels. The show's visual style effortlessly supports this duality, allowing the audience to sense the characters' unease long before they articulate it. The cinematography is characterized by an exquisite attention to detail, where each shot is precisely composed to communicate something deeper about the story. In terms of framing, The White Lotus Season 3 often relies on long, lingering shots that capture the characters' emotional states with remarkable subtlety. There is a certain discomfort in these prolonged takes, as if the camera itself refuses to look away from the raw vulnerability of the characters. This choice to hold on the actors' faces, lingering on their emotions as they flit between internal conflict and external composure, adds a layer of intimacy to the storytelling. By resisting the urge for quick cuts or flashy transitions, the film invites viewers to sit with its characters, to experience their emotional turmoil in real time. The result is an unsettling tension that builds quietly but consistently, ensuring that every moment feels laden with emotional weight. The resort's architecture, which seems to offer a perfect escape from the chaos of the outside world, is used to emphasize the characters' psychological states. The sprawling corridors, the pristine pools, and the immaculate gardens all serve as metaphors for the characters' desires to maintain control and perfection, even as their emotional turmoil threatens to undo them. Cinematographer John DeBont's use of geometric symmetry plays a significant role in visually underscoring this theme. The characters are often framed within rigid, almost claustrophobic spaces, reflecting how their need for perfection and control has boxed them in, both literally and emotionally. Whether it's a shot of a character walking alone down an imposing, cleanly designed hallway, or a close-up of an individual sitting by a pool that feels both tranquil and alienating, the cinematography builds an oppressive visual landscape that mirrors the internal struggles the characters face. The use of color in The White Lotus is also deliberate and calculated, with each hue carefully selected to resonate with the emotional tone of the scenes. While the landscape is drenched in lush greens, deep blues, and tropical yellows, the show's creators use a more muted palette for the characters themselves. The blend of these contrasting tones is one of the ways in which the cinematography encapsulates the themes of duality that pervade the story. There's a distinct visual tension between the vibrant, opulent nature of the resort and the emotional emptiness and isolation that the characters feel. The colors in certain moments subtly bleed into one another, blurring the line between external beauty and internal despair. When Naomi, for example, faces a moment of emotional collapse, the setting around her seems to melt into muted earth tones, symbolizing how she is emotionally fading into her surroundings. Editing in The White Lotus follows the same principle of subtlety. The pacing, for the most part, is slow and deliberate, with lingering pauses that heighten the emotional stakes. There are moments where the camera simply observes a character in silence, without cutting away, forcing the viewer to sit with the tension. This slow, meditative approach to editing gives the series its unique atmosphere, one that never rushes toward plot resolution or dramatic action, but instead allows the story to unfold in real time. It's a show that allows the audience to breathe alongside its characters, inhabiting their space, feeling their emotions as if they were our own. There are, however, moments when the editing shifts, introducing rapid, sharp cuts that break the established rhythm. This abrupt change in pacing is often used at critical moments, either to convey the chaos of a character's emotional breakdown or to underline a dramatic shift in the plot. These rapid shifts in the editing rhythm heighten the impact of certain scenes, making them feel jagged and emotionally charged. In a particularly tense sequence later in the season, the editing becomes fragmented and erratic, mirroring the character's fractured psyche and inner turmoil. The discomforting nature of these transitions draws the viewer's attention directly to the rupture in the character's mental state, forcing them to confront the intensity of what is happening on screen. While the visuals and editing choices are critical in defining the show's atmosphere, it is the sound design and music that truly elevate the emotional experience, transforming the show into a sensory journey. In The White Lotus Season 3, sound isn't just a backdrop. It's a powerful tool that manipulates the viewer's perception of reality. Every sound, no matter how subtle, has been carefully crafted to evoke a particular emotional response. Whether it's the rhythmic crashing of waves against the shore, the distant hum of air conditioning units, or the almost imperceptible rustling of the jungle outside the resort's walls, the soundscape of the show consistently reflects the tension that brews beneath its serene surface. The sound of the water itself becomes a recurring motif throughout the season. The ocean, with its unpredictable, rolling waves, becomes symbolic of the character's emotional turbulence. Whether it's the crashing surf during moments of personal revelation or the gentle lapping of water against the resort's shores, the sound of water subtly echoes the emotional undercurrents that persist throughout the series. In a particularly poignant moment, the sound of the waves becomes deafening, drowning out all other noise. When a key character experiences an emotional breakdown, the crashing sound feels suffocating and relentless, mirroring the character's overwhelming feelings of helplessness and despair. In contrast, there are moments when the water is near silent, creating a sense of eerie calm before the storm of emotional conflict erupts. Equally important to the sound design is the series score, composed by Cristobal Tapia de Veer and Felix White. The score is minimalistic but haunting, using sparse instrumentation and unpredictable rhythms to mirror the emotional chaos at the heart of the show. In moments of high emotional intensity, the music swells, pulling the viewer deeper into the tension of the scene, while at other times, it recedes into near silence, leaving the viewer alone with the character's unspoken emotions. One of the most striking elements of the score is its ability to shift between traditional Thai musical motifs and more electronic, ambient sounds. This fusion of old-world tradition with modern, dissonant textures creates an unsettling quality to the music, grounding the show in its locale while simultaneously signaling the deeper, darker currents running underneath the surface. The music also plays a critical role in shaping the show's larger thematic elements. One notable example occurs when Julia, Carrie Coon, enters a space where she believes she will undergo a transformational experience, such as a yoga class or a meditation session. The music in these scenes begins with serene, spiritual tones, evoking a sense of tranquility and enlightenment, but it gradually evolves into something more discordant and fragmented. This shift in the musical landscape reflects Julia's own emotional breakdown as she confronts the fact that the peace she sought is illusory, just as her wealth and privilege cannot offer her the clarity or healing she craves. The visual choices and the sound design also play into the character arcs in an intimate way. In the case of Naomi, Michelle Monaghan, the cinematography often isolates her within the frame, placing her far away from other characters in wide shots or in tight, suffocating spaces that evoke her emotional distance from the world. The sound design in her scenes tends to be more subdued, soft whispers of wind, the faint hum of distant activity, which contrasts with the chaos she is feeling inside. The muted, ambient soundscape gives the sense that Naomi is in a constant state of internal conflict, as though she is surrounded by noise but is unable to connect with it. As her emotional journey unfolds, these subtle shifts in the soundscape help to convey the unraveling of her character. The director's unique vision for The White Lotus Season 3 comes to life through the integration of all these technical elements. Mike White's meticulous attention to detail, his ability to control every aspect of the show's aesthetic, from the visual composition to the sound design, creates a world that feels simultaneously grounded and surreal. His direction ensures that the show remains an intimate exploration of character, while constantly reinforcing the larger themes at play. The haunting beauty of the Thai resort becomes not just a setting but an integral part of the narrative, one that reflects the psychological landscape of the characters, and one that shapes the emotional experience of the viewer. In one of the most striking stylistic choices, White frequently uses wide, panoramic shots of the resort's sprawling landscape, allowing the characters to feel dwarfed by the beauty around them. These shots give the audience a sense of how insignificant the characters' struggles may seem in the grander context of the world. Yet at the same time, they are framed in a way that keeps the viewer focused on their intimate emotional journeys. The vastness of the setting only enhances the feeling of isolation the characters experience. The more expansive their surroundings, the more inward they become. Visually, The White Lotus Season 3 is a stunning achievement. The idyllic, picturesque resort in Thailand serves as a breathtaking backdrop to the emotional and psychological turmoil unfolding among the characters. The cinematography captures the stark contrast between the lush, serene setting and the chaos lurking just beneath the surface. The cinematography is not just about beauty for beauty's sake. It is an essential part of the storytelling, mirroring the inner turmoil of the characters. The wide, sweeping shots of the resort, with its sparkling pools and pristine beaches, serve as a sharp contrast to the close, intimate shots that focus on the characters, creating a sense of confinement and tension. This use of space, light, and color perfectly encapsulates the duality at play within the story, the external beauty and luxury masking the internal decay and emotional turmoil. What truly elevates The White Lotus Season 3, however, is its ability to blend dark comedy and psychological drama in a way that few shows have managed to do so successfully. The series knows how to make its audience laugh, often uncomfortably, through biting satire and absurd moments that speak to the absurdities of wealth, power, and human nature. But at the same time, it is unflinching in its portrayal of the characters' internal struggles and moral failings. This balance between humor and heartache is what makes the show so unique, and why it continues to captivate viewers long after it's over. It has the rare ability to make you laugh and cringe in equal measure, often within the same scene. The show's legacy is already firmly cemented. The White Lotus Season 3 has influenced not just the genre of dark satire but the entire landscape of modern television. It redefined what luxury and privilege could mean in a story and how those themes could be explored in a more grounded, human way. It blurred the lines between drama and satire, making the audience question what they were watching and why it felt so unsettlingly familiar. It has set the bar for character-driven storytelling, proving that television doesn't have to follow conventional formulas to be successful or impactful. In a time when the world is increasingly fixated on wealth inequality, power, and social justice, The White Lotus has become a cultural touchstone, sparking conversations around privilege and the emotional cost of success that will continue for years to come. But beyond the cultural conversation, it's the emotional resonance of the series that ensures its place in the pantheon of great television. In exploring the complexities of human nature, our desires, fears, flaws, and regrets, The White Lotus reminds us that no one is immune to the emotional and psychological burdens that come with navigating life's most difficult truths. It forces us to reckon with our own privilege, whether we are wealthy or not, and challenges us to think critically about how society's systems of power shape our lives in ways we might not even fully understand. Ultimately, The White Lotus Season 3 is a show that sticks with you. It lingers long after you've finished watching, sparking reflection and discussion in a way that few shows do. Its characters remain unforgettable. Its themes resonate on a deep level, and its ability to captivate and provoke thought makes it a modern classic in the making. If you love this breakdown and want to dive even deeper into the fascinating world of cinema, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let's keep exploring movies together, uncovering hidden details, unraveling complex narratives, and celebrating the magic of storytelling that brings these films to life. Stay tuned for more deep dives into the world of cinema